Hey guys, I'm your host, Tom Russell, for Life Without Limits. I am so grateful to do another show this new year, and it's going to be even better year for I think for everyone. We have to focus on that. COVID has kind of sucked the life out of everyone, but I think if we approach this next year with an air of positivity, we'll figure it out. Somehow we'll figure it out. This show, you know, I often wonder how with my most loyal audience, you connect with many of the subject matters I tend to focus on. And we talked about drug and alcohol abuse, grieving, child exploitation, human trafficking, autism, let's see what domestic abuse, narcissism, and of course bullying, because that was the impetus for me to begin my show 3 years ago. But my goal has always been to present a story of obstacles and challenges. But the most important thing that needs to get accomplished is that there be some kind of resolution, like some kind of victory. Otherwise, I think this would be a show focusing on the problems all the time, and nobody wants to hear that. I always want to focus on the solution, as I keep pounding that into you guys, because that ain't me, folks. It's not me. I'm all about victories of the human condition, and it's always going to be that way. But you know what? There's one subject matter that I think it really needs to be addressed, and that's depression. I've had several guests who've depicted their lives saddled with living in this quagmire of sadness, peppered with a little bit of joy. And depression is a hidden, invisible life of solitude where the person feels that they're alone in their grief, and you can never just shut it off and say, hey, today is the day when I choose not to be depressed anymore. I'm going to look at life with rose-colored glasses and seek out ways to express my gratitude for what God has gifted me. It's far from it, guys. It's far from it. See, the depression is like a roller coaster ride of conflicted emotions, where the ups are enrapturing and the downs are longer lasting, demoralizing despair, where you just don't see the point of moving on. And my guest tonight, she's been on before. In fact, it's been about 1.5 years ago. Her name is Beth Tweedy. She's a longtime friend of mine for 40 years. Yeah, but you know what? It wasn't until about 5 years ago or so, something like that, she revealed to me her decades-long battle with severe clinical depression. And after all those years of being a friend, I simply did not know. And that's the way it is for depressed people, because they don't want others to get caught up with their issues. And if any of you missed that show, it was from April 6th, 2019. And you can go to my website, lifewithoutlimitsshow.com, and just scroll down to the bottom, tap on the iHeartRadio icon, and search Life Without Limits with Thomas A. Russell. I've got 150 episodes on there, so keep looking. But scroll down and find that show. And the reason I want you to do that is this. When you listen to Beth speak, there was a sense of peace and a sense of strength in her voice, and she felt comfortable opening herself up to me. She wasn't embarrassed to share her story of depression, because she wanted to let others know that they're not alone, who were also suffering from depression. And you'd have thought after that show she would have led a life of joy and contentment, but she'll tell you, I witnessed someone who rode that roller coaster of depression hard, and she hit hard. And there were times when we would have a conversation and she was so overjoyed with what was going on in her life. But then there were times when she felt she couldn't go on one more day. That, my friends, is what it's like for a depressed individual. And that is why those times of utter despair, that you as a friend or a family member needs to have patience and persistence to be by their side. Now, you're not going to solve their problems. I can guarantee you're not going to solve their problems, because it's always going to be there in some form. But at least you can let that person know that they are not alone. And that is why I wanted to bring Beth on again. I want her to share what her life has been like these past several months, so she can let all of you know that to give up is not an option. Does that about cover it, Beth?
Yeah, very good summary there.
And we're going to explore that, Beth, because I think it's real important. And before we get started, I have to express this again. I expressed it the last show, was the courage that you have to do this, the bravery to put yourself out there, because when you start talking about depression, clinical depression, there's a sense of shame sometimes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, but before we get into the things we want to talk about, we need to kind of explore what we talked about in the other show, and we're going to explore a little bit about growing up. But can you tell briefly why it was so difficult for you to find self-worth when others could see that you were worthy?
That's a very deep question. I think what happens when we have clinical depression, our chemistry is the big thing that causes our brain to function the way it does and the way we think. And we tend to compound our issues. What might be something to someone, they say, oh, well, it just didn't go well. We go on and everything else. Well, people with depression, they stuff it in there and it's there. It doesn't go away. And then the next problem comes and the next and the next. And pretty soon you've got this mountain before you of things that are bringing you down. And speaking for myself, I was always asking, what have I done? Why did I cause this? What did I do to cause this huge issue or these huge list of issues that I can't find answers for because you want to fix it all at once. Everybody wants to fix it all at once. And really what you got to do is you got to peel away at the onion and get to the core of what's really going on with you. I grew up with health problems, not knowing that I was going to end up diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 17, which is an autoimmune disorder. Pretty sure I was probably diabetic at about age 6 or 7, but it was never detected.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just think what happens is you get these problems and they don't get resolved and they just start to compile and overwhelm you. And you just can't, you reach a level where it's just too much. Everybody experiences overwhelm in their life at one time or another, but depression is like a constant overwhelm. It keeps you in your flight or fight state. It
Mm-hmm.
affects your nervous system, and it's a huge difficult thing to pull yourself out once you get mired in the muck.
Now, why is it that that people, the healthy state of mind and they're healthy physically, they tend to their basic needs for the most part, and it's just second nature. Why isn't that for someone who's depressed?
Yeah, well, I think we're all kind of born with the capability of recognizing our need for self-care and
Mm-hmm.
things. But when you have depression, uh, you feel like it's a battle. It's not a matter of, gee, I'm going to take care of myself today. I'm going to go out there and do something for someone else, or three things. I'm going to get three things done today. I mean, when it's severe, you can't even bring yourself to get out of bed because you don't think there's any reason to. You have no self-value or self-worth. You don't see that it's going to change or it's going to get better. It's a feeling of, wow, this is unbearable and it's got to change. But at the same time, you just don't, it zaps you of all energy and motivation and hope. Basically, when clinical depression is setting in and I'm having what I consider an episode, there is no hope. In my past experiences, there's been no hope. For me personally, I can tell you firsthand that a lot of people lean in spiritually when things get rough. They pray. They have faith that God is God, or their higher power, whatever their higher power is. They're going to see it through. They're going to be there, and they'll get through it somehow. I reached a point about 15 years ago where I was so down and so depressed, and I didn't want to be alive anymore. I was praying to die, and it wasn't happening. And I got mad at my higher power. I got mad at God. Why are you making me live through this? Why am I having to suffer? Other people don't suffer like this. Let me go. Let me come home. My thought was always, I want to come home to God. I don't want to be on earth anymore. It's the people are unfriendly, and I had social anxiety, so people scared me, and I gave up on my faith, which caused a separation with God. And now, in hindsight, and after what I've been through this past year, I would say that is hell. I was experiencing hell. Absolute separation from your source of hope and faith and love and everything. And I made an attempt on my life this past summer. It didn't work, obviously. I'm here.
What, in Alabama or up here?
I was here at the time. Yeah. I had, well, I lost my mom in 2018, fall of 2018. I had sold the home that she and I were sharing. Didn't know what to do because I've had health problems. I have diabetic autonomic neuropathy, causes all kinds of weird stuff. We've talked about that a little bit. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should get an apartment where I didn't have a lot of maintenance. But I wanted to have a home. So I just took off down south where my brother lives in Alabama, and I stayed there. And my experience there changed my life.
For the good or bad?
For good. It was all good. It was very difficult at first. I felt very isolated. I was away from my daughters. Both my daughters were very angry and upset with me at attempting suicide again. They've been through it before, only this time they're a little older. I've got 5 grandchildren. I was in the house where 4 of them reside. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about them. All I could think about was ending my pain. And I took pills. I took a cocktail of pills and a bottle of alcohol, which I don't drink alcohol. So, and I could feel the drugs setting in, and it was the first time in months that I had any relief from anxiety. And I felt like, oh, thank God, this is going to be over. The pain's going to stop. And I did not, I was so certain I wasn't going to be there in the morning when came time for everybody to wake up that I didn't think beyond that. But I did. I got sick. I'm a lightweight, Tom. I couldn't keep the alcohol down.
Oh, so you just threw everything out?
I did. I got sick in the night, and my grandson, my youngest grandson, went and got his mom, and they call me Gigi. I'm not grandma. I'm Gigi. Gigi's sick, and Chelsea came in, and I mean, I don't even remember. I don't remember what happened after that. I remember police showing up in the morning. When I got up that morning, nobody said a word to me. And I thought, wow, nobody even noticed. Did I try to
notice?
That was my first thought. I thought nobody even noticed. They had, of course, they took the covers that I had gotten sick on and were washing them. the kids were all home. Nobody was saying good morning or talking to me. And then the police knocked on the door and said, you know, we need to take you to get help. And I begged them to not take me and let my daughter take me. I said, I'll go on my own. If you let my daughter take me, please let me take a shower, you know.
Mhm.
But it was just, it was, I did not think beyond my own demise.
So obviously you got through this. What was your mindset after that then?
Well, it was rough. I mean, you don't solve suicidality in 3 days in a hospital stay. You just
Right.
don't. Um, and what happened was I got released from the hospital. Well, I didn't have a home. I'd been in Alabama. I hadn't found a place to live yet. So I was staying with my daughter. Then I did this dumb act.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, she was like, you can't stay here. So for a brief time, I was like
Mm.
pretty homeless, feeling like I have nowhere to go. We called my brother in Alabama,
Mm.
and they said, we're on our way. We're gonna bring you down here. You're gonna stay
Yeah.
with us. Um, so, and they are their family, my brother and his wife, are very devoted Christians. Very small church. They attend several times during the week. And of course, I went along, and they prayed for me. They prayed over me. And I had some spiritual experiences that if I tell people, they're going to look at me like, yeah, right. Uh, all I can say is the Holy Ghost was moving, and I can't deny some of the things that happened to me.
Hmm.
Um, and having that back in my life has, since I came back, I came back in September. I bought a house. I have not had one moment of depression.
Hmm.
I've had some challenges with this house I bought.
Yes, you have.
Uh, I don't recommend buying a house online.
And not
uh,
seeing the house ahead of time.
oh
Yeah.
my.
Yeah. That's
And
another
yeah,
story. Well,
yeah.
let
But
me ask you, Beth, because right now you're in a good place. And when we talked before, you were in a good place, and other times we talked, you're in a good place. So when you're in that situation, I always kind of wonder about this. In your back of your mind, do you have this impending doom, and that eventually the ball's going to drop like a lead balloon?
I did for years. I always did.
Yeah.
It is no longer with me. I don't feel that anymore. I feel like I'm on the right path. And everything is I have daily reminders and indicators that I'm in the right place, I'm doing the right thing. Um I remember telling you I'm writing. I started a book. I wrote a book 15 years ago
That's
about
good.
my depression. Uh it was titled Prelude to a Suicide. I was
Yep.
trying to explain myself to my daughters, what I was, the misery I was in, and why I wanted to end my life, um, and then I put it down and just kept trucking through life. And now I want to pick that back up and finish it, and it's going to have a happy ending, and it's going to have a different title.
Obviously, I mean,
um,
folks, she sent me a portion of what she's written, and when it comes through, I recommend it highly because it really impacted me. It really affected me because it's raw and authentic, and it's like this is what you're going through in your mind. A lot of people, I think, you talked about the beginning about focusing on your flaws, all these different things. For me, it's like. If it wasn't for my bald hair, my big nose, my big ears, and being overweight, I would be like I would look like Brad Pitt. That's how close I am to Brad Pitt. But I'm focusing on all those different flaws that I have. But for you, I mean, yours is a lot deeper, right? I mean, because you feel like people are looking at you, right?
Oh, constantly. I just feel, um, I felt like a total fail. I mean, I've been through 3 marriages that didn't work out. Um, I've had a lot of trauma. From the time I was young, some in my adolescent years. I'm actually in a trauma group right now in therapy. We are exploring the effects that trauma has had on our bodies. They're actually contemplating changing terminology for people with PTSD. They're no longer looking at it as a disorder, because the brain response to trauma is normal and similar for everyone. So it's not a disorder, it's normal. But it needs to be treated and addressed.
Right.
And it's just been interesting because I had throughout the years, I am a fighter, I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said that a year ago. I would have said, no, I'm a complete loser. I'm a failure. Nothing I ever strive for is ever going to come to, fruition. I'm here. God would not let me die because he is not done with me yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not angry about that anymore. Now I just pray every day that I'm doing his will. I give him the glory for everything in my life. I wear a bracelet. I don't know if you can even see it. It's turned copper.
Yeah.
I've worn it so long.
Yeah.
It says my story isn't over yet.
That's the name of your book. That is the name of your book right there.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that earlier. And yeah, I mean, my whole outlook on everything is different than it was. And, what I want to do with my book and my whole thing, people that don't go through it, don't have the deep clinical depression, they cannot, there aren't really words to describe how somebody feels when they're in that position. I'm trying to capture it. I am trying to put it into words so that the most optimistic person in the world, the most successful, the happiest, whatever, the greatest of the greatest, okay, reads what I offer and has a completely new perspective on mental health in general, but depression and what people need. And I didn't get what I needed for a lot of years. I've seen a lot of therapists. I've tried a lot of meds. I've been through the ringer with it. And I'm realizing, I mean, the kind of help you get and the attitude of the people that are providing it, that's everything. You either fall into a good loop, a lucky loop, and it all goes, or you get stuck in a bad cycle and you stay there.
And speaking of that, you had told me that some of the therapists you were going to, you're over dramatizing things. How do you respond to that?
The word my therapist at the time used was awfulizing.
Awfulizing.
Beth, you are awfulizing everything in your life. Everything is awful. And I felt very judged and very, what's the word? I felt like I was being told it's my fault. I'm to blame for my depression.
I think that's a misconception right there. I think a lot of people, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think a lot of people say the same thing.
Yes.
Just get out of it. I mean, just don't think those thoughts anymore.
Yeah, get over it. Get over it. Move on. Our brains don't let us do that. The chemistry doesn't let you do that. And, you know, you have to get a balance in your life. You have to get a balance between self-care. Nutrition is super important. Just getting your body chemistry going in a better direction. When you're down, people tend to stay in bed. They don't get dressed. They don't shower. They don't call people. They isolate. You've seen me like that.
Yeah.
You have witnessed it firsthand. Um, there's no thinking your way out of it. There is no, gee, I'll just get up today and decide to have a good day. I mean, it doesn't happen that way. It's baby steps. And what you have to do is find some little tiny speck of hope that you can build on and use to gain momentum. It's a process. You got to get the nervous system going in the right process. You know, I had so much anxiety over the summer. I mean, I could barely get through an hour. Was afraid to be alone because I was afraid I was going to harm myself to stop it. But even when I called in my troops, I'd call my daughter, come get me. I can't be alone. I can't eat today. Make me eat. You know, and I was flipped out. I was totally flipped out. That fight or flight response was out of control. That's chemical. I
So
used to
what?
tell.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I used to tell people when that's happening, it's like waking up from a nightmare and you've been startled. And that initial feeling of being startled doesn't go away. It's with you and it stays with you that day, that night, the next day. It's unbearable. And the sadness that comes with the depression too, it's pain. It is a physical pain that it causes. You just want it to stop. That's where the suicide comes in. You don't care anymore if people get mad at you about it. They don't understand. And you just have to, it has to stop. And a lot of times that's the only way that you can visualize stopping the pain.
And you don't think about the consequences, right?
Absolutely not. I didn't.
Yeah.
All I wanted was the pain to stop. I couldn't fathom going on another day with it. And most people that get to that point are thinking the same thing. It's not about, you know, I have so many people. Oh, think about your children. Think about, you know, what are they going to think? What are your grandchildren going to think? You know, what you've got things that you could accomplish with your life, and you'll never get that chance. And you know, it's people can talk till they're blue and say those things, and logically I would agree. Yes, you're right. This is going to hurt people. You're absolutely right. But walk in my shoes and then tell me you don't want to stop the pain.
How do you? Because I mean, you're being very authentic about this. You've talked about a lot. How by you talking about this, how does that make you feel now? You're able to do this.
Well, first off, I was told when I was down south by a pastor. She said that God wants me to tell you, Beth, that you need to keep doing what you're doing because you're going to help a lot of people, and it's really important. She didn't know me from Adam. She didn't know my story. She didn't know I'd been suicidal. She didn't know anything about me. She had been in the room with me for less than an hour and 15 minutes when she came to me and told me this. I have always felt that I have a purpose. I believe we all have purpose, but I never could figure out what's my purpose. I want to help people. I want to I want to help people who do not have depression, but deal with family members that do, or have children that have it. I want to help people understand what's helpful and what's not.
Mm.
Connection is key. When there's a disconnect with people in general, and most people think of, well, it's a support system. You're disconnected from your support system. People in general, you're almost dissociative. I'm saying that word wrong, but
Yeah.
it's like an out of body experience. Your disconnect is so bad that people just kind of overlook you. It's like, well, they don't know what to say. They don't know how to act around you. And I mean, I could be in a auditorium with, thousands of people and feel so alone. And then, all it takes is one person to say, hey, I noticed you, you're looking a little sad. Is everything okay? Hope you have a good day.
Mm-hmm.
That connection is so important, and I really think it's key. And I think it's something that's getting overlooked by all of the medical community. They do things to foster group work and connectivity, but it doesn't have to be in a therapeutic setting. You can go to the grocery store and just give somebody a compliment, and look at the response, smile at someone. You don't know what it's
No,
going
you
to
know,
do. You don't know.
I do that all the time.
Yeah,
To people.
everybody is going through something at some point.
Mm-hmm.
We're people with depression like me. We're not special. Uh, We're just ordinary. We just have. My mom used to call me a very emotional creature,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't know what to do with me as a kid. And I'm an emotional creature, but we all are at the base. We all are. Um,
You label yourself as a codependent. Why is that so troublesome for you?
well, in a nutshell, I was raised to be an ideal codependent because
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in this 50s nuclear family that lived in Pleasantville, and we didn't discuss problems, and we were unemotional, and we were not affectionate, and that none of that was acceptable. Um, I found, and I still find, um, happiness in helping people. I was raised to be a good wife. Take care of your husband, he'll take care of you. A good mother, you take care of your children. A good human, you do a certain amount of activity to help other people, charity type. Nowhere in the equation does it say, be good to yourself, take care of you. And and the truth of the matter is, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
Right.
And I have attracted people in my life that have problems, that have addictions, and things like that. And you get so lost in taking care of other people that you lose who you are. You aren't fostering an identity for yourself. So that played into everything for me, because I totally lost sense of self. I had no sense of self. If I wasn't taking care of somebody, I didn't know what to do. Talk about uh, shock when empty nest time rolls around.
Mm-hmm.
My kids moved out. I went from this house full of kids. I was the Kool-Aid mom. Everybody came to our house. And within a 3-year period, boom, oldest off to college. Boom, the youngest decides, I'm going to go try living with dad for a while. Let's see how that goes. My husband and I parted ways. I lived alone. I moved into an apartment alone, I tanked. I didn't know how to take care of myself at all, and nobody needed me except me.
Yeah. And you didn't recognize that, right?
Well, I had no coping skills. I didn't know how to cope with that, and I didn't know what to do for myself. And I had diabetes is a bear. I could do a whole show on just
Yeah.
how how difficult
I've seen it.
to manage your life with type 1 diabetes and insulin dependence and all that. You know, I've been through a lot, but all I can say is, I want to share what I've learned, and I want to teach people. First of all, I want to give people hope that are in it. You're in the muck. I've been there. I know what it's like, and I want those people to know they're not alone. There's hope. There's things we can work on and do. And then I want the rest of the world that doesn't experience it to have a better respect for what these people go through and how they can be helpful and what's not helpful.
Now we talked about the with depression in a medical sense. Do you sometimes feel like you hesitate to spill your guts out to someone because you might be pushing them away?
Yeah, I have pushed people away. For a long time, I didn't know who was safe to talk to and who wasn't, and I would just vomit it out. I mean, just word vomit everywhere. And I would latch on to people. I wanted them to know who I was and what I was going through and everything. And it's a lot for somebody to deal with. And I had two friends from childhood, from one my entire life and the other from age 10. They were like sisters to me. And I put them through the I'm going to kill myself story one too many times. They just couldn't deal. They felt, I believe, and I don't know because I don't like speaking for them, but I feel they felt like they could never help me. So they gave up trying to foster a relationship with me because it was too difficult. Nothing they did helped when it wasn't their job to help. But at the same time, yeah, if you open yourself up to just anybody, you totally risk them saying, wow, I hear the term, oh, toxic. That person's toxic. Stay away from this toxic person.
Well,
That toxic person, we're all toxic if you really boil it down.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to what you're saying. We've had numerous phone calls, particularly when it's been really desperate for you, and just like your two friends there, you felt hopeless or helpless because no matter what I say or no matter what they say, it's really not going to help. Right. But I think I've come to realize in our conversation is you're there to listen. You're not there to give advice.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to fall on deaf ears. I mean, because, well, in your mind, you're thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to tell her the right thing, the one thing that's going to turn her around. And honestly, it's never going to happen. But I think to my credit, which I don't do that very often, is to my credit, I just listened, and I just let you talk, and your situation did not change. I mean, you were still in despair and everything, but at least I felt like I was there because those are the moments that a friend or a family member just needs to be there and say, you're not alone. You can handle this. Yeah. So that's the conversations that I've always want to have with you, and this is the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
We didn't get this because this is. I think we need to talk about this. In the thing that you wrote, you talked about the acronym HALT, HALT. What does that mean?
It's a little tool I picked up in a 12-step program. Basically, what HALT is if you're not feeling well, if things are are not, you're not thinking positive, and you're feeling down, or you're just not feeling it. Not good. We have 4 basic needs that we need to tend to first before we do anything else. So the acronym H in HALT is for hungry. Are you hungry? Have you eaten? Do you need to eat, a meal? Take care of eating. The A is anger. Are you angry? Why are you angry? What are you angry about? Deal with whatever you're feeling, the anger. Are you lonely? The L is for lonely. Should you be around people? Do you need to get off your derriere and go to the store and just be where other humans are? Have you been isolating for way too long? Are you lonely? And T is tired. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If you're tired, time to sleep, time to rest. A lot of people with depression have insomnia. I've experienced that too. It's awful. You sleep all day when the world's happening all around you, and then all night long you're awake and you don't want to call anybody because they're sleeping.
Yeah.
And you can't sleep and you can't rest, and your mind is just, ruminating or whatever with what's going on. It's those nights are so long. Yeah, it's just a little tool to kind of do a self check-in.
Yeah, well, those that you what you described there were symptoms, are issues that you're going through. But if what's the deal? I mean, if you're angry and you ask those questions, am I angry? Why am I angry? How do you answer that in that moment when you're in so much despair?
Well, I really think part of it is just recognizing that, gee, you really are angry about something. Because a lot of times when you're depressed, you can't really discern what you're feeling. You just know it's negative. Everything is like, it's just awful. So sometimes if you stop and you think about, what's bothering me, what's eating at me, I know what it is. And you kind of just take a few steps back and you say, for example, I went to the doctor, and he just gave me holy crap for my bad blood sugar numbers. What are you doing? Are you sitting and eating candy all day or whatever? Just, and you may just blow it off, leave your appointment and figure, okay, well, I'll do better next time. But deep down, you're angry.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it takes a little self-reflection to recognize what it is you're angry about before you can even decide, gee, is it displaced anger? Is it, what do I need to do about it? And kind of come up with a plan. Interestingly, I've heard this so many times, depression, a lot of people define depression by saying it's anger turned inward.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
I think people that have the depression, they take on the world's problems. I mean, if the apocalypse came tomorrow, they'd be like, it's my fault, I did it. You just take it on. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a really good tool. I use it probably daily. I'll do just a little quick, gee, do I need to take care of any of these things, before I go on and take on this, whatever I'm trying to do type of thing.
Now we've got a couple more minutes here. I want to know what gives you real joy, not the manufacturer want to force yourself to be happy. What gives you real joy?
So many things. Oh my gosh, so many things. But people, just people in general. The sunrise, the sunset, nature, anything out in nature, taking a walk and hearing the leaves under your feet. Food, good tasting food.
Yeah.
There's so much to be thankful and grateful for, and that's another key to the depression is sit down and count your blessings. It's real easy to look at your problems.
Oh yeah.
But sit down and think about it. We are all so more blessed than we realize. And once you start to see that, the joy comes, you know, when you're in the muck and you're in the dark place, not even the sunshine makes you feel better. It's really horrific.
Truer words are never spoken. So if someone wanted to contact you, how would they do it?
I can be reached by email, b.tweedy20@gmail.com. I'm working on a website. I have a my domain name is Be What's Up. But I haven't tended to it this last year like I should. So we may change that up a little bit down the road. But yeah, I mean, you can reach me via email anytime. I exchange phone numbers with people all the time as well. That, you know, I start with email. I'll talk to anybody that wants to ask questions about it.
All right. Well, if anybody feels comfortable emailing Beth, you can do this, or you can email me at lifewithoutlimitsshow.com, and I would get the message and forward it to Beth. So I think it's real important. Beth, I am so proud of you. I am always proud of you. Wherever your life is, I will always be proud of you, and I thank you for coming on my show. It's always special to talk to you.
Well, I thank you for being my friend for so long, sticking with me. It's always an honor and a privilege to be on your show. It really
always
is.
And forever. All right. Before I end how I normally, I want to read something, a couple things about depression that I looked up. It's weird things your anxiety makes you do. You always imagine, excuse me. You always imagine the worst in every scenario. You overthink about the smallest of things. You have trouble falling asleep even when you are sleep deprived. You reject invitations even if you want to go out. You constantly feel scared of saying something stupid and wrong. Well, I do that even when I'm depressed. You always compare yourself with others. You are easily worried about words of concern. You get very nervous when you think about the future. You blame yourself when others don't reply to your messages. You feel unwell physically and mentally most of the time, and you find it difficult to forgive yourself for the mistakes you make at work. And one last one. 7 truths people living with depression can relate to. There is nothing worse than feeling depressed when, by all accounts, things in your life are going well and you should be happy. You start thinking more negatively while you often know what you're doing, you just can't stop. You know what it's like to sleep for a full 8 or more hours and yet still feel like you could sleep for days. There are days when all the money, chocolate, or love in the world couldn't make you get out of bed. And you know what it feels like to walk around with a smile on your face while on the inside you're barely holding it together. And lastly, there's nothing more isolating than open up to someone about how you're feeling and hearing things like, it's just a phase, you're just having a bad day. And the best of them all is, have you tried exercising? Yeah, okay, that'll work. So anyway, I want to thank everyone for listening to Beth and watching Beth on YouTube. If you want to watch Beth's show on YouTube, you can go to lifewithoutlimitsshow.com and watch it there if you can't watch the live show. And as everyone knows, I end my shows with these 4 things, these tenets that I live by. I want everyone to smile infectiously, laugh genuinely, love unconditionally, live courageously. I believe in all of you. Have a great week, folks.